Welcome to Camaraderie, where there's simply no place for crispy, clean 4K footage. And if I do get my hands on some crispy, clean 4K footage, then I'm going to do everything in my power to make it look bad. And I'm going to make it look bad with the help of today's sponsor, Dehancer. Yeah, I actually have a sponsor. It's weird. Sort of. I don't know. It's sort of a sponsorship. I don't know. We'll get into the details of it later. What you need to know right now is that about a month ago, Dehancer reached out to me on Instagram and was like, hey, we like your stuff? Do you want to do a review on our thing? And I was like, man, I'm not really into using LUTs or filters or anything like that. And I did a little bit more research, and turns out they're like actually pretty legit. It's not their plugin. It's not a LUT. It's like an algorithmically based plugin that is a lot more full-featured than a simple LUT pack. Dehancer, as I said, is a film emulation plugin that works for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, After Effects, Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One. I think that's all that they have. So if you edit on Microsoft Paint or Sony Vegas, I think you might be out of luck. And if you are an avid editor, then I don't know what you're doing on this channel. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how it works. It was a pretty straightforward installation process, which some of these things can be a little bit complicated, like, oh, you have to make sure you put it in the right folder, and it's like everybody has different files, structured folder systems and stuff. So installing this was actually really straightforward. You just run the installer and it shows up in your video effects panel in Premiere. I assume it's like that for the other programs, but like I said, I'm just editing on Premiere Pro. Once you drop some footage onto the timeline, throw Dehancer onto whatever clip you want, and then away you go. You have a choice of 63 different film stocks that you can choose from. You have a choice of what you can choose from. Imagine that. You pick your film stock, and then you have a million different options after that. I pretty much just stick to choosing my film stock, throwing on some film grain, and adding gate weave, which is like, how if you look at like a movie that's actually shot on film, it kind of has that little slight wiggle. That's gate weave, because it's a moving thing. It's not going to be perfectly still. That's pretty much all I use Dehancer for. Well, that, and I'll add in some halation if I'm emulating something like Cinestill 800T, because that's like a hallmark of the Cinestill 800T look. And then I just like render it out, and there you go. Presto, whammo, bammo. That's Dehancer in a nutshell. I've enjoyed messing around with just all the different film looks there are, like all the different profiles. It's pretty impressive how many they have, and they all do look pretty different. Every stock is a different beast. And I think they've captured that pretty well. It amuses me that I could make a short film look like it was shot on Kodak Ultramax 400. I don't know. I just think that's entertaining. They also have a lot of options of stuff that you just can't get anymore, like Kodachrome or Fuji Pro 400H. Well, I guess that's still available in 120 medium format, but not for 35. But anyways, for me, the thing that really sets this apart is the film grain thing, because it's more than just like a noise overlay or static overlay or whatever that you find in all of your, you just like the stock effect that comes with Premiere Pro. This looks so much better than that. And it has like that kind of organic life to it that real grains have. They have documentation about how they achieve this, but to my understanding, they basically like take the grain structure profile from each of these stocks and like find a way to algorithmically rebuild your footage from these digital grains it's a really fascinating process, and I think it works wonders. Like film grain is one of the things that just makes film look like film. So really, really impressed with that. And like I said before, the gate weave as well. Those just, there's subtle things. There's subtle little things that really just make your digital footage look like film. Now, I made sure I could say whatever I wanted to in this review, so here's some things that you might want to keep in mind if you're interested in Dehancer. So let's talk about the film profiles themselves. They're pretty good for the most part, pretty accurate. Well, maybe not accurate. They're more like, they get the vibe across. It's all about tones and vibes. They may not look exactly like the film stock that they're trying to emulate, but if you were to take 5 cameras and set them up in a row and put a roll of Ultramax 400 in each of those, shoot the entire roll the same way, same subject, same lighting, same everything, and if you ship 4 of those rolls to 4 different labs and develop and scan one yourself, you're gonna get 5 different looks. So, like, I don't think you can really fault them for not having exactly the Ultramax 400 look or whatever. It gets close. I think it's really helpful to have, if you can, have, some examples of the actual film that you're trying to emulate. That way you can kind of dial in with all their million different options, or even throw on some Lumetri color. You can really, I think if you have something to compare it to, I think you can really get Dehancer looking right. Like I said, I think it gets the vibe right. Vibe check, hashtag tones and vibes, all that kind of stuff. I think it does a pretty good job with that. But just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is if you're not shooting your footage in a log color space, then you might not have the best experience with Dehancer. This goes for any sort of color work that you're doing, any sort of color grading, even color correction, but especially color grading. Log footage is where it's at. You can still do it. Like, I think I only had 1 clip in that little first intro sequence that was using log footage. As GH5S, I think it's called like Vlog or something. But in that intro sequence, I had phone footage, GoPro footage, Canon 70D footage, GH5S footage. Like, it still does a job. It's just a lot easier to work with if you're using log footage. So again, something to keep in mind. And I think the last kind of, you might want to think about this for a second before jumping into Dehancer is, it is resource intensive, man. Like I said, it's all algorithmically based, so it's doing a lot of math, and it's intense. Like, I have a pretty good, it's not top of the line computer, but it can handle like editing regular 4K footage without proxies just fine. And this, you definitely need to like render your previews every time you make a change, or just like get it right and then render it all at once. Like, it just takes some time to work through, especially if you're doing a whole sequence or a whole short film or whatever. You're gonna want a pretty beefy rig to edit on. That's about it. It's a lot of fun to mess around with. Dehancer seemed like pretty cool people, and they supplied me with a discount code for y'all. You can also click the link in the description. That sounds, wow. Wow. You can click the link in the description to save 10% off or whatever. Like, that's, I don't think I ever thought I would say that. Full disclosure, if you use that discount code, you get a discount and I get a little bit of a kickback from it. So, just wanted to be totally upfront about that. But I felt good about partnering with Dehancer because, like I said, they told me I could say whatever I want. And I think it's pretty clear that I'm not exactly following a script that they sent me. So, check it out. I think they have a trial as well. So I don't even know if this is like in line with my audience. I don't know if I have many filmmaker subscribers or whatever that this would even be useful for, but I've enjoyed using it, and I'm going to use it from here on out when the situation calls for it. So it's just a fun little thing for me to experiment with. Maybe not for you if you are just looking to experiment with it. You might want to get the trial rather than shelling out for the full purchase. I think it's really more geared towards filmmakers. I think if you're like into wedding videography, this stuff would look great if you have a client that wants to, have a sort of vintage vibe. Normal service will be resuming shortly. Got some fun projects in the works. Got my Chicago trip video coming up. Got a couple cameras that I want to talk about. Maybe some film stock reviews, some more philosophy stuff. I think I just kicked my tripod. So subscribe. Since I'm doing the discount code thing, like, share, comment, subscribe. Smash that all on the floor. Smash that. I'll be on this side of the lens in the next video, so until then, see ya.